Hey, so, you remember the Grand Theft Auto series, such as Vice City or San Andreas? The games that we used to play from dusk till dawn. Well, we all know how iconic and impactful Grand Theft Auto series were for people who grew up in the early 2000s. And today, we're diving in a story which nobody really heard or knows about. The untold story of Rad, the player who broke GTA bikes, and his discoveries being used to this very day 18 years later. To understand everything that I'm going to talk about, I will have to briefly explain what GTA stunting is and how few things work on old Grand Theft Auto series. So, without further delay, relax and enjoy the video. Do you remember when you were a kid, driving around Grand Theft Auto maps and seeing those big ramps thinking, oh, this time I'm gonna hit this stunt for sure, and the thrill you'd get from doing those big jumps? Well, there is a community which the whole purpose is of doing those exact jumps and tricks. But they find their own unimaginably difficult tricks and stunts which were never intended by the game developers. GTA stunting community formed around 2004. This community focuses on doing tricks and difficult stunt jumps with various vehicles. People record their stunts and post them on GTA stunting forums or YouTube to show off their skills and dedication for each difficult stunt jump. Some stunts take years to land and requires an unimaginable amount of focus and patience doing the same thing over and over. Now, I know your next question might be, why? Isn't doing big random jumps boring? Yes, at first it might seem that way. You see, Grand Theft Auto series are known for being unpredictable with its physics. For example, we all know that Trackmania series have deterministic physics, meaning if you hit the same inputs, you get the same result every time. But in case of Grand Theft Auto series, no matter how many times you will hit the same inputs, even if going from the same run-up or place, you will always end up with a different result. I believe this was the reason why community formed around making various difficult stunt jumps. By the time when 2002 rolled around, some players already started doing various stunt jumps and tricks within GTA 3. You can say that GTA 3 was start of it all. The game had no motorbikes or motorcycles, which was pretty limiting of what you can do within the game with vehicles, but that did not discourage some people from starting stunting. In 2002, stunter named Conatus was already releasing pretty advanced stunting videos. After being recorded, they were posted around various forums or websites around GTA 3. GTA stunting did not exist back then, so stunting was not so known or looked after. However, with the release of Grand Theft Auto Vice City in 2002, players had way more content to experience, such as bigger maps, arguably the best GTA physics for stunting, and most importantly, motorcycles. Vice City included loads of motorcycles, but for the simplicity of this video, let's focus on the best motorcycle called PCJ 600. Players quickly formed around making stunt jumps and random tricks such as bumps or performing spins in the air. Stunters started finding out new methods and more advanced things within the game. Vice City stunting kept getting more and more individuals trying it out and recording their first stunt montages on consoles, later on PCs. 2004 rolled around and Rockstar dropped a bombshell on us with the release of my favorite GTA series called Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. The game offered even more detailed and bigger map with even better vehicles and motorcycles. Players quickly found most of the stunts, landed at lower roofs, and stunting was shaping up nicely. 2004 was the year when GTA stunting website was launched, as I mentioned before, and by the time 2005 rolled around, stunting was booming. Alright, you guys don't know what P2B is, or Packer to Bump. Let my friend Puzzle explain what Packer to Bump is.
The Packer is a two-door industrial truck appearing in Vice City and San Andreas. Unlike its real-life counterpart, the Packer is unable to transport vehicles, as they cannot be attached and remain stationary while the Packer simply rolls out from beneath them. However, it can be used as a portable ramp to extend a run-up. Players would approach it with high speed to jump and clear walls, fences, and low buildings that would otherwise be in the way. Another way to use the Packer is to line it up to the edge of a building, tree, bridge, or any other structure, and as you launch from the Packer's ramp, you hit the edge, performing a bump. Hence the name, Packer to Bump, or P2B.
This is where Rad comes in the story. Rad was from Australia. Before becoming a stunter in GTA games, he was the kid who would love to skateboard, ride BMXs, mountain bikes, aggressive inline skating, street luge, even primitive versions of parkour. Once Rad finished school, he moved away to live with a few friends in countryside, a house outside of a small town, away from the main city, Melbourne, Australia. The area around them were mostly farmland, so there was nowhere to skate, not a lot to do without a car. PC gaming was booming, so Rad would spend the nights and the weekends gaming instead. He would gather with his friends in a house and spend Saturday night in a makeshift lawn party. Gaming became Rad's most favorite entertainment, on which he was instantly hooked on. Back in 2001, Rad found out about GTA 3 release. Him and his friends tried stunting, however, since there were no bikes, and considering how bad a dodo is, like it was never intended to fly in the game, Rad and his friends simply did a few jumps, finished the storyline, and played around with changing the game's files, aka handlings, changing the vehicle's mass, speed, and acceleration to crazy stats to have fun and fool around. Back then, people had to set up cameras in front of their consoles or TVs, or use capture cards, aka memory cards on consoles to share and record stunting. Compared to today, we only have to open a software and simply hit record. So not many people shared or recorded their stunts. Stunting was very underground. There were some people that even used VHS tapes to record their stunts. But even then, just a few people did that due to VHS tapes being so old. Then, Vice City was released, and it was revolutionary. The addition of motorbikes was an instant game changer, and anecdotally, once Rad and his friends finished the storyline, they kept playing Vice City and spent the summer months just riding around performing basic stunts. Once Windows version released, people didn't have to go through the hassle of capture card on your console to easily share stunts. An informal community appeared across different GTA forums. For a while there, Rockstar Games themselves shared an odd link to stunt videos, which shone a light on the emerging stunting scene. One of the first collaborative stunt videos, or reels as they were called at the time, was Miss This, which Rockstar shared, and that was one of the original videos that spurred on the GTA stunting community. If you're keen, you can notice some OG stunters that made a name for themselves in the stunting community like Werewolf and Kremlin. From there, music was added to videos, with stunts increasing to be synced up to the music, adding basic transitions, effects, intros like modern stunt videos. The first few years, there were plenty of fresh stunts left in Vice City. San Andreas was totally different. Rad said he remembers downloading one of his stunt videos, and it was by Nia, who at the time was stunting on console and used capture card to record stunts. In the video, he complained that the game was broken and it needed to be fixed before Windows release, in reference that you couldn't quite get large, lofty stunts that Vice City offered. While San Andreas offered bicycles, more cars, and even larger map, the new engine restricted how high can you bump. Rad remembers that at the time, the highest Packer to bump recorded was by Buzzsaw at 106 feet on console, a record that wasn't beaten for the longest time. In contrast, many Vice City stunts were far higher than that, often 130 feet or even more. The Windows version of San Andreas was released, and the gamers finished the storyline. There was a flurry of videos as again, stunts could easily be shared by .rep files, aka replay files. I will also let Puzzle explain what .rep, aka replay files are.
Replays, or reps, are part of Rockstar's instant replay system, which was featured in GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas. This system allows players to save a replay with F2, creating a .rep file in the player's GTA user files folder. This replay, or any other replays from the respective game, can be played by hitting F3. Replays quickly became invaluable to the stunting community, as all a stunter had to do was land a stunt, save the replay, and then send a super tiny file over. The editor would then record footage of the replay in their own copy of the game, which allowed for multiple camera angles but also created consistent quality in the video overall.
Rad also mentioned that there was a large community of modders making tools like trainers, location savers, speedometers, etc. More people had PCs, viewing videos were more accessible. It was about August when Rad finished the main storyline, and at that point San Andreas stunting scene had exploded, with crew videos and solos coming out every month. So it was quite common to see videos with majority of stunts being Packer the bumps in the first few months of Windows San Andreas stunting. However, towards the end of 2005, a lot of low-hanging stunts, so to speak, was already taken by the growing stunt community. And it felt like a lot of big roof stunts were dying up. It didn't take quite long for stunters to start modding their stunts, to reach the even higher, longer, and further stunts being landed. One such case that sticks out was Tackleberry from TMS, who used to edit the crew videos, and after some prodding, he admitted to using a game mod that quickly accelerated him forward on the approach to his stunt. As he was the editor of the videos, he could easily edit out any evidence of the modding, and he didn't have to send the replay files to other crew members who would discover his actions. Rad says that this was around 2006 from his memory, and it sent a huge shockwave through the community. Okay, Phew, are you still with me? Okay, good. It was very important to know the background of GTA stunting before going any further. Now, let's ask Rad himself. Rad, how did you find this method called Rad or Radding? What happened when the method was discovered?
It was 2005, around late August or early September, about a month or so after I'd started stunting. After watching and studying the videos posted on GrandTheftAutoStunting.net, many days were spent trying to copy methods in the videos and attempting to re-land the stunts in various videos. However, what I couldn't figure out was, how do these guys get so much speed? All the natural and pack-it-a-bump stunts that were in the videos, I always came up short on reaching and never seemed to have enough speed to land them. The disclaimer in each video vehemently stated no mods were used, nor the handling files were changed, so that was ruled out. I installed a speedometer mod that showed speed in miles per hour and noticed the NRG 500 topped out for speed just past 100 miles per hour most of the time. One day, I was screwing around on the HPV 1000 at the San Fierro airport, trying to do some wheelie and stoppy kind of stunts. For some reason, I figured it would be cool to see how long a wheelie could be held, as the rear saddlebag allowed you to easily keep a wheelie while dragging the back end across the ground. Starting at the south end of the runway, I tried to drag the rear of the HPV 1000 across the length of the runway. At about the halfway mark, the speedometer didn't seem to slow down like it would if you just had the two wheels on the ground. That seemed odd, so a few more attempts were made, and with a little practice, it seemed possible that dragging the back end of the bike gave you a speed advantage. The HPV was quickly ditched for an NRG 500, and sure enough, with a long enough run-up, that 100 miles per hour mark just accelerating normally was broken, and by the end of the runway, the bike was about 150 miles per hour. Aha! I thought, delighted that I cracked the code of how these guys in stunt videos got so fast. They must be dragging the back of the bike and lowering it before hitting the stunt. Later that day, after more testing, I figured out leaning forward or backwards got you even faster. The next week or so was spent practicing this new discovery and attempting the same stunts I'd come up short of landing, which I now landed with ease. It wasn't until I'd rewatched an Extreme Stunting Alliance stunt video that in the long run up to a stunt that was recorded side on, I noticed Omni's CJ bobbing back and forth over the handlebars. He didn't have a long enough run up, and the road was too bumpy to possibly have leaned back to get the speed necessary for the stunt. Perplexed, I opened up San Andreas and attempted to lean forward then tap forward, and noticed on long straights the NRG 500 would surpass 100 miles per hour and reach approximately 130 miles per hour on the speedometer. In that minute, I simultaneously figured out I was a dickhead for not picking up the tap forward method earlier. That little trick of leaning on the back of the rear of a bike, I discovered had the potential to be a game changer.
Message by Conatus. And concerning the RAD method, you should know that the method was used before RAD democratized it by sharing it on the forums. Some stunters on random forums were aware of this method, which consisted in gaining speed on the bike. However, the method was rarely shared. Here's one of my sources. Right about now, I completely get your concern, but try to think of it this way instead. If you remove the early 2003 and 2004 posts of vague raddings with bikes, absolutely nothing changes. While if you remove RAD from this story, everything does change. I'm not saying he's founding godfather of radding or something, but let's give credit where credit is due. He is the one who discovered it on his own. He is most definitely the first one who made it popular and known to stunters. Even brought it up to Vice City stunters, where the engine was thought to be impossible to rad in. But yet, everything worked out, making a perfect puzzle piece, and right in the middle of everything was Rad himself. Whether the method would have been found by someone else after Rad, there is no doubt, but we call it Rad for a reason.
Initially, in the first week or two when I showed my future crewmates of Extreme Stunting Alliance, there was hesitation and disbelief of the method. My method was best used with the frame limiter setting turned off, which I always stunted in, as at the time my computer was fairly high-end and could run San Andreas with settings maxed out. In Vice City, frame limiter off had a huge effect, due to the nature of the game engine, with high bumps often topping out past 130 foot with frame limiter on. With frame limiter off, this was easily achieved and exceeded. However, with San Andreas, the frame limiter off advantage was negligible. You see, back in the days of Vice City, updating computers was seldom done. Some were leftovers from the .com crash, hence the idea of a frame limiter to widen the market. But by the time San Andreas rolled out, there was a large divide between those who had the aging hardware of the early 2000s, as it was skewed towards those who had a solid setup for around 2005-2006 period. Still, Rockstar created a 25 frames per second frame limiter, which was crap to play in, but it kept those with old setups happy, and Vice City purists demanded stunts be performed in frame limiter, but this wasn't enforced. It was true that with frame limiter off, my method was easier, but by then, who cared? But it really wasn't necessary like it was in Vice City. It didn't dawn on me at the time, but it opened up a new realm of possibilities for stunting, and I'd like to think that it prolonged the lifespan of stunting by a few years. At the time, I figured it would only be relevant to San Andreas stunting, as Vice City wasn't quite as limited in terms of landing high stunts. It wasn't until I tried to audition for the Extreme Stunting Alliance crew, and some of the guys who were more experienced in stunting Vice City attempted it in that game. They saw my method and they instantly tried it in Vice City to good effect. From memory, within days of showing them, Juan started from the Cherry Poppers factory and reached the ramp just near the biker bar downtown. It sent him flying hundreds of feet across the map. While not as applicable to the Vice City Islands, the Manhattan-based map from Grand Theft Auto 3 was perfect to use my method, as many of the buildings were above 150 foot in height, which was difficult to land by just tapping forward alone. For almost a year, I had an edge over the other stunters, which was thrilling, and people had come to expect me to land crazy high roofs that had otherwise been deemed impossible. As time wore on, and 2007 rolled around, many stunters had caught up to me and exceeded me in what could be achieved using my methods. As I was a slow stunter, by the time I landed stunts, others had long landed them and released them into new videos, and thus my edge on stunting was gone. Initially, I was a bit sad and bitter. However, in time, I was proud to have discovered it, and I learned to enjoy the others using my creation, landing stunts that originally seemed way too high in the beginning. Today, I'm blown away when I watch modern videos of stunting at just how far others have taken my method and pushing it to its limits. Credit where it's due, Barney absolutely pushes the envelope with stunting. I see him landing stunts close to or beyond 200 feet. And I always say to myself, get fucked, that's bullshit. In a good way, of course. A weird thing I ponder sometimes. What if it wasn't me who discovered it? What if it was discovered by, I don't know, Turtle Dick? Or another dude with the initials Cock instead of Rad? Imagine having to refer to it as Dick's method. I think it was a little unfortunate when stunting kicked off in a big way during the mid-2000s. Social media and YouTube just weren't as popular as they are now. The audience for this thing could have had the potential to be much larger if that were the case. On the other hand, imagine 100,000 people trying to land stunts. There'd be a ton of old stunts in the videos. As previously mentioned, I lived on semi-rural farmland. There wasn't really a lot to do out there, and somehow, I remember talking to a guy on Samp who, after chatting, turns out he lived about 3 minutes up the road from me. He wasn't much into stunting, but said his friend or neighbour in the same area was addicted to it. Come to find out that friend was Barney from GTAS.
And in the end, it doesn't matter if stunting gets popular, not if this video gets 1 million views. What matters is if we ourselves are happy, if the things we do excite us and makes us happy. For example, I love making videos about a silly game where a car goes vroom and jumps on a roof. But you get a point. It doesn't matter whether you stunt or drift, it doesn't matter if you play a guitar or a piano, if you read books or you like to go walking. As long as we strive for what we love, we will always be happy. So as long as we love doing stunting, stunting will always be alive. So thank you, Rad.